In the previous tutorial, we submitted a form with Recaptcha V2 using a standard text area implementation. In this tutorial, we're going to submit a form with a callback function provided to the Recaptcha widget. As you can see, this form doesn't have a submit button and is submitted automatically by the callback function when Recaptcha is solved. Let's open the developer console, switch to the network tab, and enable the preserve log option. Find the request where the token was sent to the server. Switch to the Initiator tab. Here we see the so-called call stack that caused this function to fire. If we try to click on the files in the stack, it will have no effect until we go back to the page where those files were active. Click on callback.js, which becomes highlighted in blue. We see that after the document is loaded, the Recaptcha is initiated by the Recaptcha.render function, which has several arguments, including the callback function checkCAPTCHA. This function takes a hash token as an argument, sends it to the backend, and redirects to different pages depending on whether the token validation result was successful or not. If we open the console drawer, we can type off checkCAPTCHA or type off window.checkCAPTCHA to check if the function is loaded into the page's memory. From here, we can run this function with a random token value and see that we are redirected to the page with a CAPTCHA failed message. If we do that, we get a CAPTCHA test not passed message. So, how do we automatically run this exact function on the page with the Recaptcha token? We'll use Puppeteer, an automation tool for Chromium-based browsers, where JavaScript code can start a browser instance and emulate user activity. I'm going to use ChatGPT to write a template for this automation. In the prompt, I'm asking it to automate all those basic things that just happened. Write code for Puppeteer where it opens a browser window, navigates to a page, and executes the function checkCAPTCHA with some token as its argument. Here's the code, and let's follow the instructions to install the Puppeteer library with the npm install Puppeteer command. Copy the code example and save it to a new file. The code needs some tuning. Probably if you are more specific and use the latest version of ChatGPT, you'll get better code. Let's replace the page address with ours and remove this injection code because the checkCAPTCHA function is already defined. Also, let's instruct Puppeteer to wait till page fully loaded. And add asynchronous call of the main function, so that script will actually wait till all functions are finished and doesn't exit immediately. Let's run this code. It exits immediately because I forgot a semicolon. The browser window is opened. And it failed again. It says that there's no such function wait for timeout, which should give us 5 seconds to see the result. Let's copy this output to ChatGPT. AI suggested a solution. Let's try that instead of that function. And it worked. The function was called because we see the CAPTCHA test not passed message, otherwise, we wouldn't see it. Now let's add the code to actually solve the Recaptcha and post the real token. Navigate to Anti-Captcha documentation, select Recaptcha V2, scroll down to code samples and copy the code for JavaScript. I'm refactoring it a bit to work in an asynchronous block. Replace the website address with the actual one. To get the site key, we need to do the same trick as in the first tutorial, filter requests by the anchor keyword and copy the k-parameter value. Go to your Anti-Captcha account settings, copy the API key, and replace the example key with your key. Now in the page.evaluate function, replace some token with the token constant we'll receive from the API. In a real-world scenario, you would need to fill in the login and password text inputs on the login form. Here's how to do it. Right-click on the input field, click Inspect, and find the highlighted HTML representation of that input. Copy its CSS selector. Back in the JavaScript code, use Puppeteer's type function to type text into that text input. I'm also adding a delay option, which means that a character will be typed in every half of a second. Repeat the same step for the password input. Now let's run it again. The CAPTCHA is being solved. The page has opened, and we see the inputs being filled. The test passed successfully. There's not much use for this test because we can only confirm it visually. Let's add some code to actually get text from the page and decide programmatically if the CAPTCHA was bypassed correctly and we are on the right page. Let's switch back to ChatGPT and ask how to extract the text from the HTML page. We'll use this snippet and also use part of the code from the first tutorial, which compares the text with the success phrase and prints the result. It actually prints that the test has failed because the text extraction code does not wait for the page load after ChatCaptcha function call. Let's add a wait block for several seconds. This time it worked correctly. In most cases, after you've finished debugging your code, you would want to switch to headless mode, which means that no Chrome browser windows will be opened. To do that, modify launch option headless to a string value with text new. And I'll also make code a little more verbose, so we could know what part of the code is running at the moment. Let's run it again and see how it works. It has finished successfully and we achieved our goal. In the next tutorial, we'll bypass a similar form with anonymous and obfuscated callback function, where our today's approach with calling ChatCaptcha function won't work.